Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I will be telling you about the evolution and the history of the traveling coasters in Europe, mainly in Germany, because that's where most of the big traveling coasters originated. If you want to watch a similar video about North America's traveling coasters, you can head over to Phantom Coasters channel and watch his video on the evolution of North American traveling coasters. As always, if you think I said something incorrect or that I forgot to mention something, you can leave a comment down below. Let's get started. So we split this into several time periods. The first one being the time period before World War II, so somewhere between the 19,000s and 1940. Traveling coasters did exist in Europe because affairs were very popular here. The traveling coasters from that era were mostly wooden side friction coasters with a figure 8 layout. And the next time period will be the time period after World War II, so between 1945 and 1959. Traveling coasters were still not very common in the late 40s and the early 50s. Just like before World War II, side friction coasters with figure 8 layouts are the best traveling coasters you could find. Around 1952, the first known inverting traveling coaster appeared. This seemed to be a side friction coaster with two circular vertical loops. I'm not sure if there's any other coasters like this out there that have traveled, but they were definitely not a big success, probably due to their high G-forces. And in the late 50s, the traveling coaster started to become more and more popular. Anton Schwarzkopf, which will be mentioned in the video a lot, made his first coaster in 1956, working together with Werner Stengel. Their first coaster was called Düsenspirale and was sold to German showman Löffelhardt. The ride was so complex that Anton's brother Franz Schwarzkopf had to travel with Löffelhardt to ensure proper assembly and disassembly of the coaster. In 1959, one of Schwarzkopf's rival companies, Mack, made a similar coaster. They made the Broadway trip for German showman Biermann. And also in the late 50s, some traveling single rail coasters were built. Mack built one or two of those, and some other single rail coasters with a different track type than Mack's one, but those single rail coasters didn't end up lasting long. The last appearance of these rare single rail traveling coasters was at Luna Park Carnon in southern France in 2005. And also in the late 50s, the first wooden Wild Mouse appeared. Most of these were still side friction wooden coasters, but some of them were not. The Wild Mouse featured several sharp, sudden turns and drops. And now the next era, the 1960s. In 1964, Schwarzkopf introduced the Wildcat. This was Schwarzkopf's first full steel coaster. The Wildcat has a compact layout with several drops and helixes. It was available in three sizes: 45 meter, 54 meter, and 65 meter. Referring to the length of the coaster's footprint. A lot of Wildcats were sold to German showmen. And 1 year after the Wildcat was introduced, Italian company Pinfari introduced the Zyklon. This model was pretty similar to Schwarzkopf's Wildcat, but ended up being a lot more popular. The Zyklons were an immediate hit at fairs all around Europe. Just like the Wildcat, Pinfari's Zyklon was available in various sizes. The Z40 and the Z47 were the most popular models. The Zyklon model was not only produced by Pinfari, but several other manufacturers also made their version of it. The most popular example being Italian company SDC, which sold more than 40 Zyklons all over the world. They named the model Galaxy, but the layout is nearly identical to Pinfari's Z47. And then back to Schwarzkopf. Because of the huge success of Schwarzkopf's Wildcat, he introduced a new model in 1969 named the Jetstar. The Jetstar has a smaller footprint than the Wildcat and features some big drops and fast turns. Now on to the next period, the 1970s. Just like the Wildcat, the Jetstar became a huge success. So in 1970, Schwarzkopf introduced a bigger version of the Jetstar, the Jetstar 2. The Jetstar 2 featured an electric spiral lift and some very impressive scenery elements, such as a huge main sign and a radar on top of the lift. And in 1972, Schwarzkopf introduced the biggest model of the Jetstar line, the Jetstar 3, or the Jumbo Jet. Just like the Jetstar 2, this coaster featured big drops, fast turns, an electric spiral lift, and a big main sign and radar on top of the lift. 1 year later, in 1973, Schwarzkopf introduced the CityJet, or the Jet 400, referring to the track length. CityJet was smaller than the Jetstar 2, but slightly bigger than the Jetstar 1. It featured a huge crane that was able to rotate in the middle of the spiral lift, allowing for easier setup and breakdown. All Jetstar models I just mentioned were all designed by Werner Stengel. And also in the early 70s, the first ever Wacky Worm was produced by Pininfarina. The Wacky Worm is a kiddie coaster with very simple layouts. It was a huge success and ended up being mass produced by Pininfarina, but also by a lot of other companies. And in 1974, Schwarzkopf introduced the Alpenblitz. This was a powered coaster with a compact layout in the shape of an 8. The prototype Alpenblitz featured a long train with cars very similar to the trains used on Jetstar coasters, so with inline seating. The Alpenblitz prototype was named Cresta Cresta and traveled on the German and Dutch fair circuit, but it disappeared somewhere in the early 80s. And in 1974, Schwarzkopf introduced the second generation of the Alpenblitz, the Alpenblitz 2. It didn't have the inline seating anymore and the layout was slightly smaller than the original Alpenblitz. 8 Alpenblitzes were produced, but they didn't last very long due to their high running costs. Mack also produced powered coasters named the Blaue Enzians. The first Blaue Enzian is believed to have been produced in 1969. The first version of the Blaue Enzian had inline seating, and unlike later versions, this one did not have a helix. 3 of the first gen Blaue Enzians were produced between 1969 and 1972, all 3 for German showmen. In 1975, Mack introduced the second version of the Blaue Enzian, which added a helix compared to the first version. It also did not have the inline seating anymore, and the front car has a locomotive team. This is the most common version of the Blaue Enzian. There's also a third version of the Blaue Enzian which was very similar to the second version, but only one of the version 3 Blaue Enzians was built. And back to 1970. In 1970, Zierer introduced the Flitzer. This was a compact coaster with 1-car inline seating trains. Around 1975, Zierer made a bigger version of the Flitzer called the Vierer Bob, or the 4-man Bob. Unlike the original Flitzer, the Vierer Bob was designed by Werner Stengel. The Vierer Bob didn't get very popular and only 3 of them ended up getting built, while the Flitzer got built around 15 times. And in 1974, German airplane company Messerschmitt produced a traveling coaster designed by Werner Stengel. This was a special coaster because it was the first ever suspended coaster. The coaster didn't feature any banking, even though Stengel advised Messerschmitt to bank the turns, but they ended up not doing it to cut costs. Due to that, the coaster experienced a lot of technical issues at its only appearance at the Oktoberfest in 1974. After the Oktoberfest, it was scrapped. So, thank you all for watching the first part of the evolution of the European traveling coasters. You can watch the second part on my channel. You can click in the link in the description below, or you can click on the eye in the top right corner of your screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next part. Goodbye.